Welcome back to my channel, Official History of Coins. So picture this. You're sorting through a handful of loose change from the bottom of an old drawer, or maybe you just got a $50 back from a coffee shop. Let's get started. You pick it up, and honestly, it doesn't look like much. The surface is dirty, covered in tiny scratches, the edges are worn smooth, and the whole thing has that dull, grayish look of a coin that's been kicked around for decades. It's a 1972 USA $50 with Lady Liberty on the front, and at first glance, it seems like the kind of coin you'd toss back into the pile without a second thought. Just another piece of pocket change, easy to ignore. But here's where I want you to pause and stay with me for a minute. That ugly, beat-up $50, the one that looks like it's been through the washing machine 3 times, can actually carry some surprising value. I'm not talking about a few cents over face value. I'm talking about real money that could make your week. Because in the world of coin collecting, looks can be deeply deceiving. And this particular coin, despite its rough, scratched-up appearance, has a story that might just turn that 50-cent piece into something you'll want to hold on to very tightly. So let me give you some background on why this 1972 $50 exists in the first place, and what makes it different from all the others. The United States Mint produced these $50 for regular circulation, and by 1972, the coin had already gone through some major changes. Earlier $50 from 1964 were made of 90% silver, and from 1965 to 1970, they were 40% silver. But starting in 1971, the mint switched to a copper-nickel clad composition, which is exactly what your 1972 $50 is. That means most people assume it's worth exactly 50 cents, and for the vast majority of them, that's true. But hidden among millions of ordinary coins, a small number have a tiny, easy-to-miss detail that completely changes their value. Here's what you need to look for. Flip your coin to the reverse side, the one with the eagle and the presidential seal. Right below the eagle's tail feathers between its legs, you should see a tiny pair of initials, FG. Those stand for Frank Gasparo, the designer of the reverse. On a normal 1972 $50, the initials are clearly visible. But on a rare error variety, those initials are completely missing. That's right, a genuine no FG $50. And that little absence, that tiny manufacturing mistake, turns an otherwise ordinary coin into something that collectors will actively hunt for. Even if your coin looks dirty, scratched, and worn, if those initials aren't there, you've got something special. Now let's talk real numbers, because this is where the surprise really hits. A heavily circulated 1972 $50 with a no FG error, one that's been banged around, darkened, and looks like it's seen everything, can still sell for around $850. If it's an average circulated condition with only moderate wear, you could easily see $1,300. Move up to a cleaner example with light, wear, and decent luster, and the price jumps to $2,100. A really sharp coin with minimal handling and most of its original mint shine might bring $3,400. In an uncirculated condition, preserved just like the day it left the mint, that same no FG $50 can reach $4,700 or more. So yes, this coin has real value, even when it looks like nothing special. Let me walk you through exactly how to check your own coin without making any costly mistakes. Find a bright light. Natural daylight is best. Hold the $50 so the eagle side is facing you, and look closely at the space between the eagle's tail feathers and the small shield shape near the bottom. If you see the letters FG, you've got the common version, worth exactly 50 cents. But if that area is completely smooth, with no initials at all, you've likely found the error. Don't let dirt or wear fool you. Sometimes grime can hide the letters, so gently tilt the coin under light. Also check the date and mint mark. Both Philadelphia, no mint mark, and Denver, D versions can have a no FG error. And while you're at it, trust your eyes. If you can't find those initials after a solid minute of looking, you might be holding something valuable. But here's a warning I cannot say strongly enough. Do not clean your coin. I know it's tempting. You see that dark grime, those scratches, that dull surface, and you think, if I just polish this up a little, it'll look way better. Please don't. Cleaning a coin, especially one that could be worth hundreds or thousands of dollars, will destroy its collector value almost instantly. Professional graders can spot a clean coin in seconds, and they'll reject it or give it a details grade that slashes the value by 70 or 80%. The dirt, the patina, even the wear are part of its history. So leave it exactly as it is. That ugly, rough-looking half-dollar might be hiding a $1,000 payday, and the best thing you can do is nothing at all. So here's my simple advice. Take another look at that old half-dollar in your change jar, your car's cup holder, or that random pile on your dresser. It might look dirty, scratched, worn, and easy to ignore. But this coin has real value. Not every 1972 half-dollar is a winner, but if you find one without those tiny initials, you've got something genuinely surprising. Check it carefully, don't clean it. And if you think you found a no FG error, take it to a reputable coin dealer or send it in for professional grading. Thanks for hanging out with me today. Keep your eyes open because you never know what's hiding in your own pocket change. I'll see you in the next one. Next coin, look at this 1973 Kennedy half-dollar. And the first thing you'll notice is how unremarkable it seems. The silver gray surface has faded to a dull, almost leaden tone, and the high points of Liberty's profile, her cheek, the hair above her ear, the eagle's chest feathers on the reverse, are worn nearly flat from decades of jingling in pockets or sitting forgotten in a jar of loose change. Tiny scratches, contact marks, and a haze of grime obscure what was once a crisp, lustrous coin. From a distance, it looks like any other spent 50-cent piece, the kind of coin that feels heavy but worthless, often left on a counter or tossed back into a drawer. But that tired, damaged appearance is exactly why most people misjudge it, assuming that because it isn't shiny or new, it must be worth exactly 50 cents. The truth is that this coin's very unloveliness masks a potential that most casual observers never see. Because the 1973 half-dollar was struck in massive numbers for circulation, millions of them saw hard use, and the ones that survived in decent condition are actually quite scarce. But here's the twist. Even a worn, circulated 1973 half-dollar can carry real value if it falls into the right series or shows a specific die variety that collectors chase. Most people look at the dull surface and the soft details and immediately dismiss the coin, not realizing that the absence of high luster or pristine edges doesn't automatically mean no value. In fact, some of the most sought-after coins in American numismatics are heavily circulated pieces that reveal rare mint errors or transitional planchet varieties. This half-dollar, precisely because it was used and abused, may actually hide clues that a sharp-eyed collector would recognize immediately. To understand why, we have to step back to the early 1970s. The Kennedy half-dollar was introduced in 1964 as a memorial to the slain president, and initially it contained 90% silver. But by 1971, rising silver prices forced the mint to change the composition to a copper-nickel-clad layer over a pure copper core. The 1973 half-dollar is part of that clad era, and for years collectors ignored it because it contained no precious metal. Yet over time, a dedicated niche of error and variety collectors realized that the mint had ongoing quality control issues during this period, producing coins with off-center strikes, double dies, and wrong planchet errors. A 1973 half-dollar accidentally struck on a silver dime or quarter planchet, for example, becomes a major rarity. Even without a dramatic error, certain die varieties like the 1973 DD over horizontal D or re-punched mint mark examples can turn a pocket change coin into a serious collectible. So what should you look for on a beat-up 1973 half-dollar? First, examine the obverse for any doubling in the lettering of Liberty or In God We Trust or in the date itself. Classic double die examples show clear separation in the serifs and edges of the letters, something that remains visible even on a worn coin. Next, flip it over and study the eagle on the reverse. Look at the mint mark if present, a small D for Denver or no mint mark for Philadelphia. Certain 1973 half-dollar from the Denver Mint exhibit a re-punched mint mark where the D was stamped twice, creating a faint ghost D alongside the main one. Also check the edge of the coin. A normal clad half-dollar will show a thin copper line sandwiched between two layers of nickel. If you see a solid silver edge, that's a red flag that you might have an experimental or transitional error piece, and those can be worth hundreds or thousands even in worn condition. Now, condition absolutely matters, but not in the way beginners think. For common date $half, a pristine, uncirculated specimen might sell for $20 or $30. But for the rare errors and varieties, the value curve changes completely. A heavily circulated but authentic 1973 $half with a strong double die obverse can still bring $920 at auction because the error is so desirable that even low-grade examples are snapped up by variety collectors. A 1973D with a clear repunched mint mark and moderate were recently traded hands for $1,650 because that specific variety is hard to find with any detail remaining. If you're lucky enough to find a 1973 $half struck on a silver planchet from the previous era, even a battered, dark, and scratched example has sold for $2,750. Step up to a piece with a dramatic off-center strike that still shows a full date and mint mark, and you're looking at $3,850. And in the rarest cases, a 1973 $half with a combination of a major double die and an unusual planchet error, graded in the lowest circulated grades, can push past $4,900, with a few exceptional pieces crossing the $5,000 mark. This is why you should never toss a dull, worn 1973 $half back into circulation or sell it for face value. Most people see a coin that looks like it was dragged behind a truck and assume it's junk, but professional dealers and error collectors specifically hunt for those exact coins because heavy circulation often reveals die cracks, cuds, and other striking anomalies that get polished away on newer dies. A worn coin also tells a story. It survived decades of use without being melted or lost, which for certain varieties makes it more authentic than a pristine example that might have been tampered with. The key is to ignore the surface grime and focus on the diagnostic markers: letter alignment, mint mark placement, edge composition, and any unusual doubling or splitting in the design elements. Before you get excited and try to scrub that old $half with baking soda or a jewelry cloth, stop. Cleaning is the single fastest way to destroy whatever value your coin might have. A naturally worn but uncleaned 1973 $half with an error can command premium prices, but if you polish it to a fake shine, you'll leave microscopic scratches and alter the surface patina, making any collector or grading service immediately reject it as damaged. Dealers can spot a cleaned coin in seconds, and they will value it as nothing more than 50 cents, regardless of the underlying variety. The only safe action is to gently rinse it in distilled water if it's dirty and let it air dry. Then put in a protective flip or capsule and take it to a reputable coin dealer or send it to a grading service like PCGS or NGC. So next time you're sorting through old change or inherited a jar of your grandfather's coins, don't let the dull, scarred face of a 1973 $half fool you. Look past the wear, study the details with a magnifying glass, and remember that real value often hides in the most overlooked places. A coin that most people would spend for a gumball could be worth $920, $1,650, $2,750, $3,850, or even more than $4,900 if the stars align. The $half in your hand might just be the one that slipped through the mint's quality control, carrying an error that transforms it from pocket change into a collector's treasure. Don't clean it, don't spend it, and don't assume it's worthless just because it looks tired. Take a closer look, do the research, and you might be very glad you did. Second coin, this is the 1988 P Liberty $half, a coin that countless people have overlooked simply because it doesn't shine. It doesn't scream for attention. In fact, most of these coins spent years circulating through hands, cash registers, and pockets, picking up marks and dulling their original luster. But beneath that worn surface is a story, and more importantly, a hidden potential that many people never realize. Coins like this are often dismissed because they don't look valuable, but in the world of collecting, appearance can be incredibly misleading. Take a closer look at the front of the coin. You'll see the familiar profile of Liberty, facing left, with fine details that may still be visible even on a circulated piece. Around the edge, the word Liberty curve along the top, and the year 1988 sits clearly at the bottom. Just above the date, you'll find a small P mint mark, indicating it was struck at the Philadelphia Mint. That tiny letter is easy to miss, but it's one of the key details that identifies this specific coin. Flip it over, and you'll see the eagle on the reverse, wings spread wide, clutching arrows and an olive branch, a classic symbol that ties this coin to American history. Now here's where things get interesting. While millions of these coins were produced, not all of them are equal. Condition is everything. A heavily worn coin might still hold modest value, but a well-preserved example, one that somehow escaped years of damage, can command surprising prices. Collectors are always searching for coins with strong detail, minimal scratches, and original mint luster. And when they find one, they're willing to pay far more than most people would expect for something that looks so ordinary. In today's market, a typical circulated 1988 P half dollar might not seem extraordinary at first glance, but better condition examples can reach around $780. Step into higher grades, where the coin shows sharper details and fewer marks, and values can climb to $1,250 without much resistance. For coins that are exceptionally well preserved, possibly kept in collections rather than circulation, prices can push up to $2,050. And when you start talking about near-perfect specimens, coins that look almost as if they just left the mint, the numbers become even more impressive. At the top end of the scale, pristine examples, those graded at the highest levels by professional services, have been known to sell for $3,300, and in rare cases, even reach $4,600 or more. That's the kind of value that turns a forgotten coin into something worth protecting. It's also the reason why collectors take the time to carefully inspect even the most unassuming pieces. Because every once in a while, a coin that looks completely ordinary turns out to be something truly special. But here's something you need to know if you ever find one of these coins. No matter how dull or dirty it looks, never clean it. Cleaning a coin can actually destroy its value, sometimes instantly. Those natural marks, the toning, even the slight discoloration, these are all part of the coin's history, and collectors often prefer them untouched. A clean coin might look better to the eye, but to a serious collector, it becomes far less desirable. So the next time you come across an old jar of coins or open a forgotten drawer, take a moment before you dismiss what you find. That worn, heavy half dollar for 1988 with a small P mint mark might be more than just spare change. It might be a hidden piece of value, quietly waiting to be noticed.